On.
It's on. I think it's working. Hey.
Hello, everyone. We made it. We're here. We finally did it. After many hours of getting chairs out and knife fights, and there was, recriminations and the whole thing. I just spilt my coffee. That was the last thing.
That was like the 1,000th thing to go wrong while we're trying to set this up. All you YouTubers out there, I don't know how you do it. I'm very impressed.
Very impressed. Yeah.
We'll figure it out though. This is our first episode of Going Rogue version 2.0.
Yes.
And it's going to be okay to start out, but we're going to get better. We're going to take audience suggestions, and we're going to listen to your feedback, and we'll get better as we go.
Yes. A little feedback right now. You're a little loud.
Sorry.
You've got your big American voice, and I've got my little Australian voice.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Americans are much more aggressively spoken than Australians, right? Would that be fair to say?
Definitely, yes, yes. You're much more forward. You're much more like a dick, and Australians are much more like a vagina.
Which is appropriate in our case.
Yes. But not always.
Not always.
Sometimes it's awkward for everyone.
If you want to have like a sovereign country that isn't a U.S. intelligence / military asset,
yep.
Then this is not that useful to be a pussy.
No, yeah, it's not.
You got your own citizen locked up in the UK for publishing facts. Oh, well, they're just going to do what they're going to do. Whatever you reckon's a fair thing.
Yeah, no worries. Don't worry about it. He's all right. We don't even like him. We don't like him. Yeah, that's the Australian way. So laid back, they're full of their chair. So, yeah. Which is why we get fucked by everyone. And we do a lot of fucking ourselves, though, to be fair. It's just, as the kind of, like, the best friend of the bully. That's kind of how I see Australia. Like, we're...
Right, yeah. It would be nice to just, like, actually be a real country where you're able to make your own mistakes in your own way and stuff, though, instead of...
That would be awesome. So that's, partly why I do what I do.
What do you do? Tell the good people what kind of your thing is.
This morning I was thinking, why do I do what I do? Why? The emotional impact of that was a lot different to, why do you do what you do? It's like, why the fuck am I doing this?
How did I get myself into this?
Yes. I'm just a mum on Facebook, and that's pretty much where I started. Just a mum on Facebook. You introduced me to Bernie Sanders. I thought he was freaking awesome. I was a big fan, and we went into the Bernie Sanders groups and pretty much owned.
Yep. Yeah.
If I do not mind saying so myself.
Oh, we were so good in those Bernie Sanders Facebook groups.
Yeah.
So that transitioned into a gig at Inquisitor for you, where you were writing a bunch of opinion pieces.
Yeah, well, I was already doing that, but then I started doing it, more Bernie news to put in those groups because there was a big Bernie blackout. So,
right.
Yeah, so that, and then, Inquisitor let me go. Well, not really. They decided that I was too much.
They would tone it down.
Tone it down or leave. So I left. And the good people of the internet have picked up the slack on that, and so
now you're a entirely
totally crowdfunded writer. Yeah, well, so yeah, that's why we do what we do. But I mean, that's not really why we do what we do. We do what we do because we're heading towards near-term extinction, and I want to stop it.
Yeah, well, we're really in love, right?
Yeah. Is that fair to say? Yes.
Yeah, and there's no point in being in love with someone if you don't have a planet to live on.
It's really quite impossible.
No matter how much you love each other, if there's no atmosphere, or if the atmosphere you do have is swimming with nuclear radiation or whatever,
yeah,
it don't do you much good.
No, so we would like to kind of to hang out together some more.
Yeah, ideally forever-ish.
Just forever.
And
then a little bit more, maybe. If we get to the end of forever, we might sign on for another forever, I don't know. But also, the kids, we do it for the kids too.
Yep.
Because that's not fucking fair. It's not fair to hand over like a just a dust bowl with no prospects.
Right. So I guess our the thing we generally talk about, the kind of arguments we generally make, is something along the lines of, usually boils down to things are pretty fucked. Because a few horrible people have taken control of everything.
Right. Through narrative, just through storytelling, they have this control.
Right. And the public, there are a lot more of us, but we don't stop them. And we don't stop them because of that narrative control. We don't stop them because most of us are thoroughly propagandized, because those same people who own the government and the financial system also happen to own the media. That's that same plutocratic class, and they form alliances with sociopathic government agencies and completely control the narrative about what's going on. So everyone thinks everything's more or less okay. They think everything pretty much ticked along fine, and now there's this Trump guy, but everything will be fine again once we get rid of him. And they were just paced from narrative to narrative to stop anyone from making any meaningful changes. Right.
So our job basically is to throw a spanner into the smooth running machine of propaganda. However we can. So that's kind of like, we worked out a while ago, didn't we, that's really the weakness of the machine.
Right, because it's made of stories. It's like made of fairy tales. So it's very ephemeral. It's like,
yeah, you can just throw some shade on it. You can just get people suspicious of the stories they're being told, and then they'll start to actually look for evidence for those stories, and then they'll develop their own sense-making abilities and come to a conclusion about the world that won't be necessarily, something that they've been hammered with, and that only ever benefits the plutocrats. They'll come to a conclusion that benefits themselves in some way, and even just sheer self-interest would be better at this stage than what we've got right now.
Right, yeah. If everything were just run democratically by the people, as neurotic and confused and shitty as the average person is,
as we are right now,
still better than a small group of sociopaths running everything.
Right, especially when you look at the sociopaths and the people who are running the world right now, who have the most power and influence. People like Musk and Bezos, and these people they're awful. I mean, and their plans for us are what are going to take us into the next stage. So and they really have no fucking idea. I wouldn't not even let them look after my children.
Well, what's weird is that these new tech plutocrats that are starting to kind of that vie for control over the old money plutocrats, is that they're like, you were just brought this up the other day, how these people are gaining more and more power, and the only reason they have that power is because they're good at ones and zeros and shit.
Yeah, programmers, it's just spreadsheets. They're really good at binary thinking, which is the absolute fucking worst thing at this point in time, to have, the direction of the planet in the hands of a few people, to have them in the hands of a few people who can only think in, ones and zeros is... I mean, it's a nightmare. So, we really do need to have more people thinking about where we're going, and more people with power in their hands to implement those sorts of things.
Yeah, and the way to get there is to disrupt this narrative control that we were talking about, and get more and more people awake to the fact that these sources of information that they tend to look to figure out what's going on in the world are lying to them every single day, over and over again. And really, that's the key, and that's the most direct path to get out of this system. But it's hard to talk about sometimes. It's not hard to talk about. It's easy to talk about. It's easy to point to. It's easy to implement. What's difficult is getting people to hear it.
Yeah.
You'll say this. You'll say, no, we got to wake people up to the fact that the mass media especially is
and they'll
lying
agree to that.
They'll totally agree, and then they'll go, okay, so but what do we do? How do we organize? Do we start a new political party? What do we do? Like, it's difficult to...
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. And which is interesting because they ask us what to do all the time. Yeah, and it's like, well, do this. I mean, obviously, I'm doing the thing that I think will work.
Right,
like,
yeah.
I'm not wasting my time doing something that I don't think will work. So yeah, if you want my opinion, do the thing that I'm doing. Like,
just
have a go at, like, throwing shade on the narratives in it, whatever way you can, like,
And that's mainly what we wind up doing, is just highlighting what Washington Post just lied about this, CNN just lied about this, now they're going after Assange and it's bullshit for this reason, and
right.
all that stuff.
And it's just exciting, like, skepticism in people over and over and over again until it becomes a habit to stand back a little bit, because these like, it's hypnosis. The mainstream media is hypnosis. And, like, when you actually look at Chris Cuomo and those people who are really good at it, they do use those NLP tactics to insert little, mind viruses into things, and the repetition and it's all very practiced. So, getting people to wake up to those narratives is all they really need to, just to be standing back a bit and going, okay, so you're telling me that, but is it really true?
Yeah, and once you get that, once you can create just a little bit of distance between their minds and trust.
Right.
You did an interview with Jimmy Dore a while back, and he talked about how when he's smoking pot, and when he used to, like, before he even got into this gig, when he would smoke pot, he would look at the TV and he would just be like, they're lying to us. Yeah. It's not hard to see. Like, just cannabis is not. It's not like a huge mind altering drug. It just tilts the camera a little bit. It just gives you a slightly different angle on consciousness, and that's all it takes to be able to see it.
Right.
To be able to see the hand in the puppet.
Yeah.
To be able to see. Oh shit! They're just lying.
And
just
the
lying all
drama
the
of it,
time.
the theatre of it as well. Like, real stories about real people aren't presented like that. That's not how the world works. It's
right. If you spend any time interacting with human beings, you just need to be able to notice the difference between that and the way things are presented in the narrative making business.
And the way that they'll, skew things so that some things are more important than others. Using your own sense-making abilities to work out, like, is that really important? Like, the kind of the whole Russiagate thing, it's totally bunk anyway. But even if it was a real thing, even if Russia, through this, like, ad hoc internet agency had managed to get in the faces of 160,000 people with an ad about, with Bernie looking buff, like, is that really important? Is it really worth going to nuclear war for? Or, even just that amount of cynicism. You don't have to go, oh, well, that's so, like, the whole thing is fucking bullshit.
Right.
Which it is.
But and you can dig into that, like Aaron Mate. You can go into really deep detail and explain exactly why it's bullshit. But if you can just get
he's
people
been good. Can we just say how good he has been?
Oh, if you're not paying attention to this dude, you're missing out. He's something else.
Yeah.
He kind of came out of nowhere. I remember when we first found him, he had like 3,000 Twitter followers or something.
Right,
it's like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
He's great, yeah. But you don't need that. Not everyone needs to be an Aaron Mate combing through layers and layers of information. You only need that if you're like, well, I get a hunch that this is bullshit. I would like to understand why. You just need that hunch, though, to be able to kind of navigate your way through the information field.
Right. Yeah, that hunch, but also, like, just that little bit of cynicism to go, okay, but you're not weighting this correctly. Like, the fact that Russia may have had a little bit of a say in is that actually worth going, is a no-fly zone?
This nuclear war, this Cold War.
This new Cold War, that is...
It's
like,
really ticking along. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah, except maybe Tulsi Gabbard. I thought that was really good the other day when she was saying
that's why they want to shut her the fuck up.
Yeah, but the biggest threat to inaction on climate change is the fact that we're in a fucking Cold War, and that people aren't collaborating properly. So, yeah, it's all about truthful information and collaborating with with each other to get a better picture of what's actually going on, which is so important. You know, we're reaching a crisis point where there's so much information, and we're moving so quickly technologically into AI and things that could really harm us. You know, it's not just climate change and things like that. These are the sorts of things that I harp on about. But we're making these kind of like massive decisions on where we go with technology that can impact us in really detrimental ways.
Well, we are not making those
untested.
decisions. That's the problem. We have nothing to do with those decisions. Those decisions are being made for us.
Right. But yes, they are. Yes, exactly. And so it's important to start trying to make sense of those things and talk to each other about it, and not just take it lying down, you know, start making noises about those sorts of things, which, you know, we do. A lot of us do. So that's really great. Yeah,
and ideally we'll be able to turn that small fire into a big fire.
And I think it is working, yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's the trust in the mass media is plummeting. Like, after Epstein died, they spent how many days pummeling everyone over the head with this narrative that anyone who questions that it was a suicide is a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
And then they do this poll, and it turns out the vast majority of people do not believe that Epstein committed suicide. They just don't buy it.
Yeah, so that smear of being a conspiracy theorist is starting to lose its hold, which is really great, because, you know, we've got to examine, you know, powerful people do collude, like Russiagate, you know, like any Russiagator will tell you that, but they don't call it a conspiracy. Collusion, conspiracy, exactly the same word. We've you know, powerful people do collude to maintain their power, and they do collude to do horrible things. So yeah, we've got to take that back. And I think that is starting to happen. So,
yeah.
But it was amazing how many headlines had the word Epstein and conspiracy theorist in the same headline. Like, that's how desperate they were to make sure that everyone, you know...
you're not allowed to go near that. You're not allowed to think about that.
It. Yeah. So, and isn't it weird we're not allowed to, you know, there's, like, we made a tweet today about just how crazy is it that... in all of the wash of that, we found out that intelligence agencies are involved in using children for sex to entrap people or whatever.
Powerful people.
But they're using children. That
just is happening in these intelligence agencies.
But yeah, like support, like tax-funded.
These are the
government agencies.
These are the same ones that everyone told us to trust and defend at the beginning of Russiagate.
Right. Using children in the most heinous way, destroying lives, you know, and destroying the lives of their families too. When you do that, when you wreck a human like that, it's really incalculable how much damage you're causing, because it has knock-on effects. And so that's routine. That's a part of that. Like, that's tax funded. I find that crazy.
Which is just like, no big deal, whatever.
Yeah, no, like that.
The Guardian put out a story yesterday. I saw Media Lens highlighted it about, is it the age of the hot priest? Like, there's this, that's a thing now. Like, there's, I guess a lot of hot priest characters on TV. They did a news story about this, because that is the thing that we are to talk about now. That's the news.
Oh, that's so gross, given what's happening, you know, in the Catholic Church.
Let's not talk about fucking Yemen or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Let's talk about, is this the age of the hot priest?
Oh, that's disgusting.
Anyway, what's in the news?
Oh, okay. So, look.
That's
I've
all right.
got to put my...
I'll stall. So, yeah, so what we just talked about, that's pretty much what we write articles about, and that's what we're going to be podcasting about for as long as this whatever podcast thing keeps going. And we'll do this for as long as it's fun, I guess.
So, we're just throwing shade on the narratives.
Yeah, just disrupt establishment narratives, help people to see that these things are not to be trusted.
Now, so Joe Biden actually threw shade on his own narrative the other day. Well, his eye did. His eye exploded on national television.
His fucking eye exploded.
So we thought that was funny.
He had, what is it called, a hematoma or something in his eye? And yeah, anyway, he's doing this CNN town hall, and he turns his eye, and it's just all just bright red. That happened during the television broadcast. His fucking face exploding.
The front runner.
This is the front runner to be the commander in chief of the most powerful military in the United States. His brains are leaking out his ears. He can't string a sentence together, and his fucking face exploded on live TV. You don't get to be president.
So that's going well, isn't it? Like,
it's so stupid. It's like the way they're setting it up. It's like if he gets elected, he's gonna start cognitively at the level Ronald Reagan ended, right? It's so dumb.
Oh, they can't be serious.
And I mean, it matters though, doesn't it?
I think it matters. I think, as much as we lambast the American presidency for just being a puppet or whatever, it matters that there's an actual human in there, because, like, at least they can put the brakes on in some ways, and they do. Like, once in a while,
yeah. Like, Bush basically checked out for his whole presidency,
right,
and let Cheney pretty much run things, and you saw what happened there. He started a couple of wars in his very first term, but Obama, total puppet, just like all of them. But there was enough of a human in there for him to throw a little bit of inertia on, like, arming Ukraine, full-scale invasion of Syria, stuff like that. He still did horrible things, but he was able to put a little bit of resistance on it because he's not a Weekend at Bernie's puppet as Biden would be.
And that's the thing, isn't it? When you look through that little glass, like, when you actually think they're still pushing him. So obviously, the people who are pushing him don't care if he's a puppet or not. Like, they're not really think that this is just a little angle we can see by the fact that they're not going, oh shit, he may not even last. We should perhaps push someone else. Like, maybe we need someone whose brains are intact. They don't care, obviously. So that's weird.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, basically anyone who would like to see a President Biden would really like to see President Biden's handlers.
Yes.
As president.
Yes. They trust the permanent government more than that they don't even care. So, yeah. I find that fascinating. But the guy he didn't even remember. I thought this was a joke. So I ignored it. But he forgot Obama's name.
Yeah, we just kind of dismissed that, and then we looked at the video clip.
Yeah,
and
I thought that was fake news, but it was not.
Yeah, he was talking about, and then back when President, my boss, and he just waved it off. It was like a hand wave, no big deal. I forgot the president who I was vice president of. No, it's just whatever. Like, we're just supposed to go, oh yeah, well, sometimes you forget that stuff. What? No!
Yeah.
His brain don't work.
His brain doesn't work.
But he's able to kind of compensate. Like, you know how early onset Alzheimer's people can compensate and sort of fake their way through?
I think he's very well trained. He's been trained in politics, which you can kind of pretty much, like, you're trained to word salad your way through any sort of thing.
Politicians are trained to act like an early onset Alzheimer's person.
Do you think that's true?
Like, they're trained to sort of take a question and then not answer it. And just make some mouth noises that sounds acceptable and end with truth, justice, and the American flag, and then and just move on, and that's like that. That's what he spent generations doing. So he can kind of bullshit his way through Q&As and be like, okay, we're talking about the environment now. All right, well, what do I know about that? But if you actually, like, write out the things he's saying and do an actual transcript, it's gibberish. He just doesn't complete thoughts at all.
No, he doesn't.
And then he'll just trail off and kind of forget what he was talking about and then go, anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
And there's sort of this, like, never mind the fact that my brain is not
functioning,
following along with this conversation.
Yeah. So that's falling apart before our very eyes. But, we have learned from the past that that might not matter. They might push on anyway. So
It's possible, yeah. He's still officially the front runner somehow.
And they haven't even bothered to explain why his eye exploded. I find that really weird too. Like, could you just tell us? Like, anything really. Just, you know, like...
Just say a thing. Say anything.
Pretend
really.
that you care.
Lie to us at least.
You know...
Have the decency to lie.
And also, like, pretend that you care. You know? Like, your guy, the one that you like, you know, your man, his eye just exploded on stage. Show a little compassion. But they don't, you know. They don't really care. Just wheel him out and pump him up and...
Just write "not Trump" in Sharpie.
Right.
Over his forehead. That's really the only argument they would ever need anyway.
Well, that's pretty much how
He could literally die. He could literally die and then run out the rest of the campaign like that. And then he would still... And then he would go on to lose, but win the popular vote.
But, you know, even his wife said that. It's like, well, you know, he's shit, but, like, he's not Trump.
Yeah, and you need to start thinking about who can actually win. I know he's shit. He might not be as good as your preferred candidate on, say, healthcare, whatever. She does the same hand wave thing. Oh, you know, healthcare, petty things like that.
Yeah, whether people live or die or not. He might not be good on that. More people might die, but that's, you know, at least he's not Trump.
Oh, there's a whole country of people. There's more than 300 million people in America.
Right.
A lot of those could be president. And they're telling us, no, actually the only choices you have are this guy who's practically being eaten by worms as we speak. And fucking Elizabeth Warren, who has not actually shown us any evidence that she isn't basically a Republican still.
No, I mean, she basically just got done being a Republican, literally. Like, she was a Republican until she was 47. That's older than me. It's
a long-ass time.
Yeah, that's like me turning Republican.
Yeah, and then without
I would not trust me if I turned Republican. That would...
I wouldn't either. I love you so much.
Yeah.
We were just like, yeah, no.
I think completely different things about everything.
I love Mitt Romney now.
What happened?
What?
Yeah. Till 1996 too. It's just weird. And then, you know, 10 years later, she's like...
wagging her finger at the
bankers and stuff, but...
who never suffer any actual consequences. So it's like she's really good at getting a viral video clip going. But that's basically all we know about her.
No, yeah. And that she doesn't drink beer like a human.
She doesn't. So, honey, you're here to drink beer. I was just drinking a beer. You could drink a beer with me, and we could drink beer together in front of this here camera that people are watching to decide if I would make a good president. Here's our beers.
So weird. I can't stand that stuff. Just like be a normal human and let it lie.
Even if you're a weird human, even if you're a kind of gross human, but much better off than
branding exercises are just just don't.
Yeah, you're just looking at a bunch of suits, figuring out how to manipulate people.
Yeah, and it just has that.
Wrapped in politicians' skin.
Yeah, and so as soon as you're trying to be that fake, it makes me wonder how fake you are with everything else. And she's already doing the kind of public position, private position stuff, like talking to donors, to superdelegates and stuff, and trying to reassure them, and it'll all stay the same. Don't worry.
That came out from the New York Times too.
Yeah. So it's I don't think she's really, really real.
No, she's definitely not. But she's obviously. I think they like her even more than Biden. I think she seems to be really the anointed one.
Yeah, well...
Biden they'll settle for.
Tulsi destroyed Kamala.
Oh, yeah. Kamala was obviously in the anointed list as well, but...
I think we said Kamala. Actually.
Kamala?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I knew a Kamala. I know a Kamala. And so I get it wrong.
I used to watch pro wrestling, and there was a Kamala. And that's how I was pronouncing it in my head for a while.
Oh, so we both had it kind of slightly wrong.
That was a pro wrestler in the 90s.
Right.
Kamala, sorry.
Pamela.
Yeah, but she's almost. I saw one poll where she was just 2 points ahead of Tulsi. Now she's down to like 5%, and Gabby was at 3% or whatever.
Yeah, well, there's
but obviously it was one
that,
of those polls that didn't count.
Yeah, no, none of the polls that count. I've seen polls as high as 8 for Tulsi.
Really?
Yeah, recently. Oh, wow. I mean, that's the Streisand effect for these sorts of things. You know, like people found out that she wasn't going to be included, and then she gets a bump. Like,
what is it you guys don't want us to see?
Yeah, because you want to know. Like, we're all curious. We're curious humans. So, yeah. Anyway, so then the other thing, well, we've got a few things, but I wanted to talk about Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan, yes. So that's Amazon TV. Yeah, they got this season 2 of Jack Ryan.
So Jeff Bezos TV, and
CIA TV,
CIA, / Pentagon TV, and he's got it's Jim from The Office. He's Jack Ryan.
Okay, wait, can I interrupt there? Who decided that Jim who was watching The Office? Yeah, and decided. Yeah, that guy would make a good action hero. I would like to see that guy running away from an explosion. That by itself is weird.
Yeah. He's a CIA financial analyst, actually.
So in season 2, he's in Venezuela, yeah?
That's right. And the opener to this, you got to see the trailer for this, because it's just fucking amazing. It is just propaganda. It is pure propaganda. It's like made from the 50s. It's Jack Ryan, and he starts, the first opening question is, what's the most major threat on the world stage? And so you're meant to immediately think Venezuela.
Russia giving Venezuela a nuclear weapon.
Right, because he explains later in the trailer, if Russia was to do that, then Venezuela would obviously nuke everyone.
Immediately. He says, if Venezuela gets a nuclear weapon, we'll never hear about it because we'll all already be dead. That's an actual line. He actually says that with his face. And that's like that's just meant to go in, and you're just meant to hear it because whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll listen to this part because I'll get to see him punch someone in the throat a little later, and that will be entertaining to me because we're all kind of lost and confused in this nonsensical world, and that'll just help me pass the time until I die. But they pack so much propaganda into these, and I think that's the most propagandistic trailer I've ever seen, and we've seen some crazy ones.
Yeah. It is cartoonish, isn't it?
Yeah, and so they got it looks like they got a female Guaido on there. Maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like they've replaced the names. It's not Maduro, it's President Reyes,
yeah.
And it looks like they got a female Guaido leading the rebellion. But yeah, it's obviously there to make people think that there needs to be regime change in Venezuela because he says this too. He says, Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the planet. So why is there such a horrible humanitarian crisis there?
Well, I wonder why. They obviously don't want you to think about that too hard.
It's so weird that they'll just come right out and say that.
Yeah.
And then use that as an argument for regime change rather than, they're so confident in
their ability to spin it, yeah. That they will say, oh yeah, guess what? These guys have a lot of stuff that we want. So why on earth are they run by a dictator who likes to kill them all?
It's so interesting. It's so interesting how all these dictators wind up on top of our oil.
It's so strange, isn't it?
Yeah, so we'll put a link to that trailer in the description. You have to see it to believe it. It's really amazing.
The other thing was Pamela Anderson owning on The View today.
That was glorious.
She is such a sophisticated, intelligent woman. I love her. So she went on The View, and she was fantastic. She was composed, so knowledgeable. And of course they ask her about Assange because she has a friendship with Assange, and she has been, visiting him. And she even visited him in Belmarsh about May, I think it was, not long after he was put in there. So, anyway, they start asking her about that. And she does a wonderful job of giving his case and why she thinks it's important that he be let free, and and why she thinks he's being persecuted, and adding in the fact that a lot of what Americans believe, particularly about Assange, is smear. And then, of course, Meghan McCain couldn't help herself. Like, you can almost see her from the side trying to get in. Like
the demons leaping out her eyeballs.
So she attacked. She went straight for the throat, called him a cyber terrorist.
And she kind of threw shade on Anderson as well. Like, she said, so there are journalists who would just like to know what your relationship with him is.
Right.
Right before throwing in a McCarthyite smear about, well, Putin thinks that too.
Yeah. And, the intelligence agencies and stuff like that, like, what will they think about your relationship with him and stuff like that? But her opening jab was about he was allegedly kicked out of the Ecuadorian embassy because he was defecating everywhere and creating messes, McCain said. So...
which is a completely fact-free smear. There's no evidence for that. And if there was, we would have seen it.
We would have seen it,
That would have been plastered everywhere.
Yeah.
Because the embassy took photographs to try and make him look messy.
I mean, it was the most surveilled place on the planet there while he was in there.
Right, and so they circulated a photo of him eating and pointing out that the dish was messy while he was eating off of it. And he was obviously not a very messy person.
No.
They showed a picture of a clean bathroom.
Yeah, and was like, but it's all about the headline, isn't it?
Right.
They use these words like,
it has a bathroom, it's got a toilet in it, he probably poops in there.
Oh, look, there's toilet paper, he probably wipes his bottom with it. That's disgusting.
Narrative is everything. You just cast a little word spell and then throw an image. Even if there's nothing in the image, it'll go right in for a lot of people.
And I think Assange particularly has woken me up to the fact that disgust is a very powerful emotion.
They talk about his body odor more than I have ever heard anyone talk about anyone's body odor ever.
Right.
Why would that be a thing?
Yeah. Why would? Yeah. Why? You just don't hear about that. Even really stinky people. I'm sure there are actual stinky people in the world, and you don't talk about how stinky they are.
It's just to generate disgust and
it
revulsion
works.
to get people
revulsion.
just go, ugh, yeah.
Yeah. And
so it's like, okay, yeah, they've imprisoned a journalist for telling the truth about U.S. war crimes, but
he's a bit stinky.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and by all accounts, he's not. So, it's all total fakery anyway.
But that's all. They don't need it to be true. Well, they just need that revulsion.
Right. And but you can tell McCain's she's got this wonderful way of just showing you what all the things that they want you to think about are. So she comes in with that, and then
she had all her talking points ready to go. God, the apple did not fall from the tree, did it?
It did. It often doesn't. It would be quite surprising if she was, but yeah, she's a thing for sure. Yeah, but the amazing thing was Anderson flipped everything. She started attacking her about that, and Pamela was like, "There's smears and stuff," but she threw in that thing. They've got video of it, which of course they don't. They have plenty of video of Assange, but they do not have. I think she said they've got video of those things. So it's this kind of I can get away with that.
God, she's disgusting.
Yeah. And then Anderson said, "What would you do if you were locked in a room for 6 years?" And I don't think she didn't mean that he smeared poo on the wall, but also when that came out, I was like, if that has actually happened, and I doubted that it had, that still doesn't that shows someone in severe distress.
Right. So yeah, they were running around going, "Oh, poop, poop, poop. He put poop on the walls. Poop, 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 poop," and just all these poop jokes, grown-ups.
Yeah.
Professional journalists running around making poop jokes.
Right.
For days. And if that were true, it did not happen. It's not a thing. But if it did, they would be mocking someone who has been psychologically brutalized to such an extent that he lost his mind.
Right, yes. which is
what a perverse thing to do.
Yes, and someone who went into the embassy perfectly sane, and we know that. Nils Melzer, the special rapporteur for torture, has been saying that the sort of relentless public mobbing that he was subjected to is of the type that will drive you freaking crazy. Like it's mental torture, it's psychological torture.
Yeah, and they ran tests on him and they found that he had been damaged in that way.
Yeah. How could you not be, really? Like, to be like in that tiny little, and then being constantly hammered and hectored by the public about things that aren't true, that aren't true. It's just too much. So even if anything like that had happened, and it didn't, because we know that because we would have seen the video. There's no way, if they had video of him doing anything like that, we wouldn't have seen it already. And all we've seen is photos of him eating from a plate and them going, ew, a messy plate, and photos of a clean bathroom and them going, ooh, bathroom, he had a bathroom.
Yeah, the Moreno government would have leaked that a long time ago.
And one of him skateboarding, and that I just thought that
awesome.
was fine. Like, I might as well.
Yeah.
Like, I would like to learn how to skateboard. Yeah. Anyway, so but the one really cool thing she did was that McCain was like, he hacked information. His leaks included classified documents that put our national security at risk, our military and the lives of spies and diplomats at risk. And Anderson came in quickly with, he didn't hack it. He leaks. But then she's flipped it and said, like, who've put our national security at risk? It's the military. How many people has the American government killed? How many innocent people? How many has WikiLeaks killed? I mean, she kind of...
That's awesome, though. How cool is it to get that on mainstream anything?
Yeah. Yes. Well, it was so cool that the audience clapped. I mean, unauthorized clapping. That's the worst.
That pissed McCain off, too, didn't it? Was that where she went, oh, calm down, sir?
I
see that part?
Actually, yes, she did.
I think that was it.
That was it. And so, yeah, she said, so you think that the military is putting the government at risk? And Anderson said, the military has put many American lives at risk. Obviously. And so they clapped, yeah, and she was like, calm down, sir. Meghan McCain doesn't like it when people support the other side. And she was like, she jumping out of her, like, I watched the rest of it, and at the very end she's like, I'm calling it. He's a cyber terrorist. I'm not afraid to say it.
Not afraid to say it. Oh, why? Yeah, that's so brave of you to go along with the consensus narrative of the entire political media class.
What
You're so brave.
Oh, look at that. Do you hear the people sing, Megan? Wow, look at you.
But yeah, like we'd like to talk about how Joe Scarborough, took his job at MSNBC because he figured out that he could have more influence on public policy as a TV host than he could as one of 100 U.S. senators. So it's no surprise that McCain should want to be in that position and that people should want her to be in that position. She's able to and anytime they have anyone anti-establishment on that show, she's always there making sure that everyone knows Tulsi Gabbard is an Assadist or whatever.
Yeah, she's the attack dog. Yeah, so that's why, like, there are people, actually, it didn't go well, I think, for the establishment. There are a lot of people just saying, oh, look, I'm not sure I agree with Pamela, but, that was so rude, like, what she did. And calling for, them to, that's, like, a step over the line, we've had enough of her or whatever, but they're not going to get rid of her. That's what she's there to do.
Yeah, well, they need to have that diversity,
the diversity.
They need to have that diversity of opinion. The whole show, they need to have that whole full range, all the way from Democratic neocons to Republican neocons. They need their Republican neocon. Otherwise, it would just be Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg cheering on U.S. imperialism, and you can't have that. That's one-sided.
Balance. So that was really cool. That was an awesome thing to wake up to. Thank you, Pamela. That was great.
She's so great.
Yeah, she's so great. Another thing we were talking during the week, that there's been a lot of, there's always a lot of talk about fake news, and now the Pentagon has put their hand up and said, we'd like to take care of that for you. We'd like to take care of the whole
I'm from the Pentagon. I'm here to help.
Thing. Oh, and it's not just the Pentagon, it's DARPA.
Yeah, specifically.
Which is one of the creepiest organizations on the planet.
They're the ones that, like, whenever you see, like, robots running really fast or something, or that weird wall crawling one, there's always DARPA funding in that shit.
Oh, I don't know what brains are in that organization.
They have a whole brain program. They're trying to knit AI and brains together. This is the U.S. military. They're spending billions on developing a robot army. They don't want just, like, drones aren't enough for them. They want things running around on the ground killing people. That's the way of the future. I guess
that's where we're headed.
Yeah, and really, that's kind of a no-brainer, because they have such a hard time manufacturing consent for wars now, and they know in order to secure U.S. hegemony, they're going to need a lot more wars. So how do you get around the angry public when a bunch of flag-draped coffins are coming home in planes?
Right.
If you can automate death and destruction, then you can get around that. So it's kind of obvious they're in such a hurry to push out robots. Anyway, so yeah, they've got this narrative control program out. Right,
where they're going to detect fake news before it even goes viral.
So, how convenient. Future crime.
Yes, so Orwellian, isn't it? The future crime. So yeah, they've got this AI program that will sift through all the news and presumably looking for keywords and whatever, and basically just shaping the narrative to their benefit.
So if anyone has something to say about the white helmets, for example,
that would be fake news. I'm sorry.
We'll stop that before anyone even hears about it.
Yeah, stamped out. So so that's great.
That's great. So but I mean, obviously, Caitlin, they wouldn't be able to just insert this unilaterally into the internet programming. So it's not like we could...
it's voluntary.
Yeah, it's voluntary. So it's not like they're going to be forcing Google and Twitter and Facebook to implement these softwares. We can pretty much count on them to be the independent social media firms that they are, right?
Right. Well, yes. You say that on one side, and then on the other side you drag them up before Congress. These you get Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey or whatever, drag them before Congress, scare the fucking shit out of them, and give them instructions to stamp out fake news. And hopefully they put these two things together. I need to do this thing, or else my company is in danger of being broken up. That's basically what they're worried about. And these guys are just offering this stuff for free. Wow. Where could it all go wrong?
Well, where can it go? Like Daniel McAdams getting banned from Twitter, for example.
Yeah, that was another thing that happened. So Daniel McAdams from the Ron Paul Liberty Report, and Twitter, celebrity basically, and fantastic on anti-war stuff.
He's great. He's so great. It's so weird that we can have so much in common with someone we're so ideologically different from.
Well, yeah.
He's really great on foreign policy.
He really is.
He's not like one of the MAGA people who's kind of good on like Syria and Russia or whatever, but
he's really consistent.
Very consistent, yeah.
Yeah.
As consistent as any leftist as far as foreign policy goes.
Yeah, yeah.
Really, really solid. And just a deeply good man.
Yeah, he is.
I really like him.
Yeah, so that's a real shame. Twitter is less for him, for them stamping him out. And, it was just so stinky the way that they did it. Like, they got him on using a word. But
that everyone, like lots and lots and lots of people on Twitter use. Like, you search this word on the R word. He calls Sean Hannity retarded. And if you do a Twitter search of this word, you will see that, like, if you go to do a Twitter search on the word retarded, and then you go to latest, the latest column, people use that word as an insult multiple times per minute, and their accounts are still there.
Yeah, it scrolls up.
But this guy, who happens to be a really effective anti-imperialist, they've got people shadowing and making sure and just watching him to make any mistake.
They've pinged him on it. So, yeah. So he's just out. That's it. And they've received confirmation that that's the end of his account. So,
permanently, yeah.
So
next in line, Caitlin Johnston.
Yeah. I mean, I don't use that word, but like, I say some pretty dodgy things. I'm Australian. Like, I use cunt as a term of affection.
Oh, be so careful about that one.
I'll see, have I done that one for the YouTube thing? Oh my God, everything's so...
You're cancelled.
I'm cancelled already.
Cancelled forever.
Cunt.
Oh, stop.
You mad cunt. You're a mad cunt. You are, Tim. You're a mad cunt. And that's a good thing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, so that's McAdams. That was kind of crap. Hey, do you want to do some questions?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, all right, well, let's start off with something easy. This is from Twitter. This is US Senator Dick Johnson. I have a feeling that's not his real name. Why are Russians hiding under my bed and in my closet? Very good question, US Senator Dick Johnson. Why are they hiding under your bed and in your closet, Tim? Why are the Russians hiding there?
For the same reason that 10 years ago terrorists were hiding under your bed and in your closet.
True.
You need to be afraid of the new primary enemy so that you will consent to Cold War escalations and not just that, but also like internet censorship and stuff like that.
Yeah, massive gains in control and massive gains in the tax purse as well. Like, give us more money because, we're protecting you from Russians.
And again, like we were talking about, see how this all ties into narrative control. They get people believing that we need to be afraid of the Russians, so then we need a new Cold War. We need checks on fake news. We need to be loyal to establishment media. And when Bernie Sanders makes the obvious statement that Washington Post is against him, you'll get people saying that's the Kremlin line instead of an obvious and undeniable fact.
And also, I think Bernie Sanders gets to say that about himself, I think I know who my enemies are. You don't get to say, oh, Putin put that in your head. I was like, hang on.
I think 16 smear pieces in the span of 16 hours put that in my head.
Yes. Being subjected and knowing exactly what they're writing about me, it's a infernal thing to do. Anyway, so that's why Russians are under your bed, Senator Dick Johnson.
Glad we cleared that up.
Yeah. Now, Outer Limits Radio on Twitter said, Khalil Gibran once said, "The lust for comfort murders the passions of the soul." Do you think that not just Americans, but many people in the first world nations have made a conscious decision to forego their right to liberty in order to engorge themselves in a bed of comfort? Now, I'm not sure about a bed of comfort, but I do think it comes down to cognitive ease. I think it is much easier to believe that what you're being told is basically true than to go against that and feel those, yucky feelings of cognitive dissonance and go and look for yourself as to what's going on in the world and how that relates to you and how you're benefiting, and also how you're in deficit to that. So
yeah, and there are also all sorts of ways built in to encourage people to be comfortable, so that they don't look too hard at what's going on. There are, you can kind of sedate yourself in a fugue of KFC and television, so that you're or in Netflix now mostly, so that you're not thinking about what's going on in the world and not asking too many questions and just sort of ticking okay on whatever Jake Tapper says.
Yeah, but I think a lot for a lot of people, it's not the bed of comfort. It's the bed of working your ass off, in one or two jobs, and then not having any more brain space to go home and think about things.
That's true, yeah.
It's also, for a lot of Americans, it's not a bed of comfort at all. It's a bed of nails, but...
Right, and they, that's why alcohol is perfectly legal, whereas psychedelics are not.
Right.
If you were to... They want stuff that sedates you. So you work a miserable job for 40 hours and you spend the whole weekend, instead of thinking about things and reflecting,
getting perspective on it,
you just sedate yourself.
Yeah, and maybe getting angry about it. Not allowed to do that. Just have a beer and you'll be right.
All kinds of distraction built into the system.
Right. How do you write? This is Femi on Twitter. What is your writing process? How are you able to produce articles as quickly and effortlessly as you do?
We cheat
because we got two. I think it's now obvious about how that happens so quickly.
Yeah, no, basically we just have this long conversation going all day. And then, over the span of a couple hours, Caitlin taps out a few paragraphs kind of updating you guys on what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. And
ideally, that's what this podcast will turn into. We'll just turn on the mic and have that conversation, continue that conversation for people. That's not really happening right now. It's a bit stressful right now.
Yeah, there was a lot of work to get to this point.
Yeah.
But once we got it figured out, it'll be easy peasy.
Yeah. So... But that's kind of what we're going for, isn't it? We don't particularly want to be, jumping from issue to issue and stuff, and we just want to kind of relax conversation. So hopefully that's what you guys would like. Does Australia? This is from on Twitter. Does Australia have a Pledge of Allegiance? No. The kids recite before school and each day, and adults recite before municipal meetings. I found that so weird. I mean, you weren't sure if
I don't know about that one. But then and our pro sporting events used to market military nationalism. Yeah, that one I know. Those are uniquely American mind viruses, aren't they?
Right. I mean, I have seen some Army Reserve ads on during the footy sometimes, and they do a lot of. But that's American TV, like when we watch MMA. Oh, yeah. And that's for the Marines and stuff, isn't it? That's the American, so I'm getting mixed up. All right.
Yeah, but I think
Australian television, not really. No, it's very much it's a very cultish sort of thing to be doing, is to be pledging allegiance every day to your nation, and it's
just weird and gross. Why would you do that? Yeah, but
it's a brainwashing thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I almost never see Australian flags except on government buildings.
Right,
it's not a thing. Whereas in America, it can be every second house will be flying an American flag.
Right,
it's the dumbest fucking thing. It's a piece of cloth, but a football player not wanting to stand up while that cloth is worshipped gets treated as an affront to the troops.
Yeah.
Stupidest fucking... Think harder, people. It's not a real thing.
Yeah.
It's not even people say, oh, it symbolizes something. Not really. No, it doesn't even really say... You just made that up. That's just happening in your mind. And you don't even really have a clear picture of what it even means. America is huge. No one actually even loves America. Maybe you love your neighborhood, and a certain part of it, but nobody loves America. That's not a thing. It's too diverse. It's too huge. There's no clear picture of it. It's just this nonsensical position to take.
These things are really important, to create patriotism, isn't it?
Right, because it just gives you this little icon to focus on. So, that's the thing.
And then you start to love that, and you become attached to the kind of concept of it, which is, in this Pledge of Allegiance.
You know what the Pledge of Allegiance is, or the national anthem? It's the exact opposite of the 2-minute hate.
2 minutes to 8. Yeah.
In the 1984.
It's the carrot version.
Yeah, it's the carrot version of that. You just get people to look at it and go, oh, which I guess they probably did in 1984 too, like that I love Big Brother thing, and that's why they had Big Brother everywhere. That's Big Brother. It's getting people to love Big Brother.
Right.
Which you just can do. We're wired that way.
Yes, and getting them to have loyalty for that. So that therefore, things that are just so insane, things like we want to pack a whole group of our youngest, brightest people into a plane and send them to the other side of the world to kill all their youngest, brightest people and probably be killed themselves. People don't go, no, dumb. They go, yeah, let's do that.
In the name of freedom. Most people need some freedom and democracy like we have here. Get some of these red, white, and blue rectangles flying over there.
We're coming for you. Yeah. What else? Oh, here, Tim on Twitter said, "Why the hell did it take you so long to make another episode? You are both great on the podcast. I can't wait." Well, I hope we're great. But why did it? Well, life happened in between. There was, we got a couple of teenage kids.
There are driving lessons to be had.
Yes, and much pastoral care, and we did homeschooling for a bit, and life just
too much on our plate.
Yeah, but things have settled down, so we'll see how. I'm not promising anything. Life may happen again. It has a tendency to do that, but I think we can do this pretty regularly for a while now.
I reckon.
Yeah. Okay, what else have we got here? Oh, Jeffrey on Facebook. This is a question for you, Tim. Does Tim miss the United States?
No. Next question. No, I mean, especially not now. It's just gotten crazier. I came here to Australia. We're in Australia. We don't. People might not know that.
Oh yeah.
This is in Australia, and I left in 2016, and so I've just kind of watched everything get even more ridiculous and polarized than it already was. Haven't been back since. I should go visit the family, but it's just like, and also just like, America's got shit systems. The normal countries have good healthcare systems and stuff in place, and yeah, there's nothing really to miss. I miss my family sometimes, but as a country, no.
It's beautiful.
It is so beautiful. It's so weird that we don't make a bigger deal about that.
I find really interesting, actually, from an outside perspective, how Americans, their perspective on what's great about them and their country is so out of whack with what is really great about them and their country. Like,
you don't think it's great that we invented freedom? And that we're the only democracy on the planet?
Yeah, see, all of that stuff's just weird, made-up stuff. That's kind of... But America, the natural attributes, the Rockies and just going along California, just driving along that beach road there, that... Just stunningly beautiful. Just so many beautiful natural attributes.
We build Costco's on top of that.
But even
look at that and we've got a parking lot to put right here.
Yeah. Even with all of that, it's still all the beauty just kind of dominates. It's just amazingly gorgeous. So there's that, and also American people are really gorgeous too. They are. America, but there's no one more warm and welcoming and friendly and loud, yes, but also generous and kind and deeply want to do the right thing. And I think that's something, that we've mentioned before, that American people really, really want to save the world, and they really, really want to be the good guys. They're not kind of hung back from life like Australians are or the English are or whatever, And so, like, when I say to an Australian, I want to save the world, they're like, whoa, what? Like,
get over yourself, mate.
Yeah, get over yourself. What? They just can't. They can't understand why you would have such ambitions or, like, even think it's possible. Tell an American that, they're like, yeah, right on, I can help. Like, they have this innate desire to do the right thing, which has been turned completely against themselves.
Right, yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Like, you've pointed out, and you helped me to see this about Americans, because I'm, like, just too close. But that this is evidenced in the kind of propaganda that they use on Americans. It's never about, we got to go out there and
dominate and...
Yeah, it's all about we need to go to the rescue. We need to rescue those people. They don't have freedom and democracy like we do. They need help. That guy's a dictator over there. We need to go and help the people. They always use the word people. The Venezuelan people, the Iranian people. We need to go in there and help those people.
Yeah, a nation of helpers.
Yeah, they want to help. They do want to go to the rescue. It's just misdirected, like you said.
Yeah. So, yeah. And that's something I do, actually. That's a little tip I think I can have for if you're ever feeling really low and like the world is not worth, and we're all heading towards destruction and whatever, go and have a look on Facebook for videos of people helping each other. And, like, you can just, humanity in and of itself is a really beautiful thing. And we do want to do the right thing, but we just don't have any kind of clear idea on what's actually going on. We were under mountains and mountains of misinformation, disinformation, and we don't know what to do. So even at the heart of it, most people want to be doing the right thing, and that's why they vote Democrat, or that's why they vote Republican, because they believe that that's the way to do the right thing. But it's not the whole picture. So, and we're not telling each other the whole picture, because, we all have an agenda and lives by omission and all of those sorts of things. So, yeah, really, if we can start having kind of relationships with each other that are truthful, even just in... I've been obsessed with that the War on Sense-Making video all week, haven't I? That's another thing that's been happening. This, what's his name? Daniel Schmachtenberger, I think. Anyway, it's on Rebel Wisdom, which is this really...
We'll put a link in the description.
Yeah, pretty great channel. They do a lot of videos. And his solution to of what we have to do is to start having really intimate, vulnerable, earnest, sincere relationships with each other, with people that we can trust, where we collaborate with our sense-making, so that we can somehow, in some small ways, make sense of the world and have some information that is probably truthful, because it's very difficult, when in a world made of narrative like we have, and in a world that there has been, like, massive attempts to warp our narratives in all sorts of ways, with people with all sorts of different agendas. It's very difficult to even come to one fact, that you absolutely know is certain. So it becomes kind of like the spiritual and the political kind of marry in this weird way. So yeah, that's really worth the time, actually. I think it's an hour and a half, but that's a really good listen. He just takes you through sense making, and it's very clarifying, on how you can improve your own sense making, for people who really want to do that. So, yeah. What else have we got?
I think we should wrap. We're at over an hour now.
Are we?
Time just flew right by.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's good. We did a good job. I think that was okay.
I think we did. We are. Am I reading it right? Yeah, we're well over an hour.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, we'll leave it there. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave all your feedback for us in the comments, and we read it all. So no way that I can reply to it.
Leave your questions too. We'll answer questions and stuff.
Yes, that would be great. I am totally crowdfunded. So if you would like to help in any way, sharing is fantastic. Throwing some money in my hat is really great. I'm on Patreon, PayPal, links in the description. And that's it.
That's it. We'll come up with a cool sign off later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Work in progress.